Welcome back to Toffee Booze, your source for all things Everton. I'm Ollie Hayes, and today I'm here to bring you an update and a reaction to the Everton takeover news, especially with the comments made by John Textor yesterday. So let's get straight into it and start with the comments made by John Textor, and just to give you a little bit of an update on what he said in a recent interview. So he said yesterday that he's 90% confident that an Everton takeover would take place and that he would acquire the majority shareholder role of Everton Football Club. And he also stated that the sale of Everton to himself would be him personally. And he'd be buying Everton with a few close friends rather than using Eagle Football Limited, which is his company for football, who holds shares in Crystal Palace, Botafogo, a certain Belgian team, and also Olympique Lyon in France. So yeah, that's basically where we're up to in terms of comments made by John Textor. I'm not fully sure where that lies in terms of rules in the Premier League and multi-club ownership in terms of the Premier League. Obviously, Premier League rules state that you can't have interest in more than two clubs, as we saw over the years. Obviously, with Usmanov and Mashiri, they held interest in Arsenal and then obviously had to sell those shares to come to Everton. I think this is a very similar situation with John Textor and his Crystal Palace shares. So I'm not sure where this leaves us in terms of that situation and obviously would he still have to sell his shares? I'm not so sure. I would pretty well think so. But that's basically where he's at. He's 90% confident that the Everton takeover will take place, as he said before. And he's made some interesting comments on Sean Dyche in the last 24 hours as well. He said that he would sit down and have a conversation with Sean Dyche and go through the players that he would want to coach. I think he took a liking to the fact that Sean Dyche was happy to sign Jake O'Brien from Lyon in the summer. So I think he called him like the big Irish lad or something. So I think that's definitely a positive for Dyche. Obviously, it's showing that he's forming a decent relationship with the prospective new owner. But also, he mentioned in this interview that he would, obviously, he was happy that Jake O'Brien was signed, but would he be happy to coach the likes of, Igor Enrique, a striker for Botafogo, or some other Botafogo players? Would he be happy to coach that? So I think Texter is maybe trying to sound out potentially looking at a replacement for Dyche, or maybe showing that he might look to move Dyche on if he isn't willing to coach the players that John Texter is bringing to the club. I'm not so sure, but obviously, as I've said before, he did admit that he did take a liking to the fact that Dyche had signed Jake O'Brien over the summer, but. Yeah, that's basically where we're at in terms of comments made by John Textor. But this afternoon, I think it was early this afternoon, it prompted an Everton statement made by interim CEO Colin Chong in response to the comments that were made by John Textor. And it's interesting that the club have never actually publicly addressed John Textor in this whole saga. Obviously, we had 777, we've had the Freaking Group, and they have been publicly addressed by the club. And this is the first time that Everton have actually stepped in and made a statement about a prospective owner like John Textor. And Everton said that obviously they're aware of the comments made by Textor in the last 24 hours. And Chong did say that positive talks have taken place between the two parties, between Everton and obviously Farhad Moshiri, and then also John Textor himself. But a deal is still far away. A deal isn't very close at the moment. So I think it is interesting that Everton have chosen to come out and make a statement on this. Obviously, it was relatively quiet through the whole 777 saga. It was relatively quiet through the Freaking saga. Obviously, we heard murmurs through various journalists and various different sources, but there was never anything officially confirmed by the club in those two sagas. And then obviously now we're in the middle of an exclusivity period with Textor and Everton. And this is the first time Everton have actually come out and made a statement about where we're up to. And I think it's interesting. It's very interesting that maybe the club sees that as a little bit of a red flag, and that he is talking quite openly about where the process is at and talking about the chances of the saga actually going in favour and going through. So, but for me personally, I can give my reaction to it. I'm a little bit bored of all this saga stuff now. I think it is dragging on so long now, especially us as Evertonians. All we want to do is go to the football on a Saturday and know that we've got a potential board and know that we've got an ownership situation which is resolved. At the moment, we don't have that. And obviously we're going into this difficult game on Saturday at 5:30 at Villa. Obviously, again, with rumours swirling about where we're up to with the ownership. I don't think it does a very good thing for the squad. I think it maybe distracts the squad a little bit from what's going on the pitch, and maybe puts a little bit of a shadow over the group. I'm not so sure. But for me, I am just getting a little bit bored of all this saga now and all the talk. I just want someone to really take this saga and take this exclusivity period by the scruff of the neck and just get the deal done. Obviously, the comments made by Texter are largely positive. I think it's positive that he thinks that it's 90% done and there's a 90% chance that it will go through. But obviously, his comments of slightly conflicting to the statement made today by Everton. Obviously, Colin Chong coming out and saying that it's not fully done and there is still work to be done. So I think I will take all comments made by Texter at the moment with a little bit of a pinch of salt. Obviously, I am reading some things from Crystal Palace fans, which, they don't read the best. They're kind of saying that Texter does this. He likes to be very vocal and maybe doesn't really deliver on the things that he promises and says out loud. But for me, I think it's interesting that Everton have come out and made a comment, but also I would take what Tex is saying with a pinch of salt. And I'm hoping that we can just get a resolution soon. Obviously, we can't really get a resolution until we know where we're up to in terms of his shares at Crystal Palace. As soon as you sold them, I think that gives him a clear run to get through and take Everton. But at the moment, with that looming over him, I'm not sure how this gets resolved relatively quickly. But that's my thoughts really on the saga. Let me know your thoughts in the comments on the saga. Are you a little bit bored? Are you excited by the prospective takeover of John Textor? Would you not be happy with that? Would you be happy with someone else? Maybe the Free King group coming back in. We saw that happen with Roma when they took over there, and you know, it, for me personally, I am just getting a little bit bored. I feel like it's dragging on a little bit. I think I would just like to see us have a new owner now. Obviously, that's all in a hypothetical world, and that's probably not going to happen. But I would like to see us have a new owner relatively soon, go into maybe a January transfer window, especially going into the new stadium with a new owner and just a clean slate. I think that's all we want as Evertonians, just a clean slate. And obviously, the comments made aren't ideal, but let's just see where we're up to, especially this side of Christmas, because I think we're in for a rocky journey, and it's this saga's far from over. But let me know your thoughts in the comments on the potential takeover of John Textor. Let me know your thoughts about potential other groups. Are there any other groups you'd like to see throw their hat into the ring? But that is all from me today. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll speak to you soon.